The cold had a sound of its own. It was not silence, not truly. It was a low, aching pressure, like the earth holding its breath. When the temperature dropped to 71 degrees below zero, even thoughts seemed to freeze before they could fully form. Anya woke before dawn, though dawn itself was only a concept here. The taiga did not offer mornings gently. Darkness clung to the forest like a living thing, thick and endless. She lay still for a moment inside the narrow cabin, listening to the faint cracking of wood as the logs contracted in the cold. Her breath rose in pale clouds, even beneath layers of fur blankets. She counted her breaths. 1, 2, 3. This ritual grounded her. Panic wasted heat, and heat was life. When she finally pushed herself upright, her joints protested sharply. Pain was constant here, but it was honest pain, pain that meant she was still alive. She pulled on her felt boots, stiff as boards, and wrapped a scarf around her face until only her eyes remained. The mirror nailed crookedly to the wall reflected someone she barely recognized. Her cheeks were raw and red, her eyelashes already dusted with frost. She looked older than her 24 years, and yet something in her eyes was harder, clearer. She opened the iron stove and fed it the last of yesterday's split larch. The fire caught slowly, sulking, then flared with a brief orange defiance. She held her hands close, not too close. Burns healed poorly in the cold. Outside, the taiga waited. When she pushed open the door, the cold hit her like a wall. It forced the air from her lungs and replaced it with needles. She stood still until her body adjusted, until the shock softened into something bearable. The forest stretched endlessly, black spruce and larch standing like silent witnesses. Snow lay so deep and dry it squeaked under her boots, a sound sharp enough to feel like breaking glass. She had not planned to be here. No one ever planned to live alone at the edge of human survival. But plans dissolved quickly after the accident. The memory came uninvited, as it always did in the quiet. The research convoy, the laughter over weak tea, the sudden scream of metal as ice gave way beneath the truck. The way the river swallowed sound. The way her sister's hand slipped from hers, fingers numb, eyes wide with terror. The way the world went on afterward, indifferent. Anya shook her head, as if she could dislodge the memory. She focused instead on tasks. Survival was a chain of small, deliberate actions. Forget one link, and the whole thing fell apart. She walked to the fish traps she had set beneath the ice days earlier. Each step had to be careful. Sweat was an enemy here, moisture froze fast and stole heat. When she reached the hole, she knelt and cleared the thin layer of new snow. Her fingers, wrapped in fur mittens, worked slowly at the frozen rope. For a long moment, nothing moved. Her heart sank. Hunger was a constant companion, a dull ache that sharpened when hope failed. Then she felt resistance. She pulled, muscles burning, and dragged a silver-gray fish onto the ice. It was small, but it was food. Real food. She let out a sound that was half laugh, half sob, and pressed her forehead briefly to the ice. Gratitude here was not poetic, it was physical, overwhelming. She killed the fish quickly, murmuring words her grandmother had taught her long ago. Respect mattered, even now. Back in the cabin, the warmth was relative, but it was enough. She cleaned the fish with careful, economical movements. Nothing would be wasted. The bones would become broth. The skin would dry near the stove. Cooking at 71 below was a strange thing. Water froze if left unattended. Oil thickened like wax. Even boiling water fought back, steaming sluggishly as if reluctant to leave its solid state. Anya worked slowly, adjusting the pot's position, feeding the fire just enough. As the fish simmered with a handful of dried herbs she had foraged months earlier, the smell filled the cabin. It was rich and simple, and it made her chest ache with something dangerously close to joy. She ate sitting on a low stool, blowing gently on each spoonful. The broth warmed her from the inside, spreading through her limbs like remembered sunlight. Afterward, she allowed herself a few minutes to rest. She leaned against the wall, eyes closed, listening to the fire. In these moments, the loneliness pressed hardest. There were no voices here, no human sounds. Sometimes she spoke aloud just to remind herself she still could. "I'm still here," she whispered now. The words sounded small, but true. The afternoon passed in a blur of maintenance. She checked the snares, repaired a crack in the cabin wall with moss and mud that froze almost instantly, and chopped wood until her arms trembled. The sky never truly lightened, but the darkness shifted subtly, a deepening blue that signaled time passing. It was near evening when she heard it. A sound that did not belong to wind or ice. At first, she thought her mind was betraying her. The taiga played tricks on the senses. But the sound came again, clearer this time. A low, strained cry. Her heart began to pound. Danger here took many forms. Wolves, frostbite, exhaustion. People were the rarest danger of all, but perhaps the most unpredictable. She grabbed her rifle and stepped outside, scanning the tree line. The cry came again, closer now. It was human. "Hello," she called, her voice muffled by her scarf. The sound seemed to vanish instantly into the cold. She followed the noise cautiously, every sense sharpened. Near a stand of young larch, she saw a shape collapsed in the snow. A man, half buried, his movements weak and uncoordinated. His face was pale, lips blue, eyes unfocused. Anya knelt beside him, ignoring the scream of cold against her knees. He was alive, barely. Frostbite had already claimed parts of his fingers. His clothes were inadequate, city-made, not meant for this place. "Stay with me," she said, gripping his shoulder. His skin was like stone. Getting him back to the cabin took everything she had. She hauled, dragged, and cursed under her breath, fear lending her strength. By the time she slammed the door shut behind them, her hands were shaking uncontrollably. She stripped his frozen clothes carefully, wrapped him in furs, and set him near the stove. She did not rush. Rapid warming could kill him. Survival here was always about restraint. Hours passed in a haze of vigilance. She fed him small sips of warm broth, rubbed his limbs gently, spoke to him even when he did not respond. Her own exhaustion receded beneath adrenaline. When he finally opened his eyes fully, it was well past what passed for midnight. "Where?" he croaked, then stopped, swallowing painfully. "You're safe," Anya said softly. "As safe as anywhere can be." Tears filled his eyes, freezing at the corners. "I thought I was dead." "So did I," she admitted. In the days that followed, the cabin changed. It held 2 sets of breath now, 2 heartbeats. The man, whose name was Mikhail, had been part of a geological survey that went wrong. He had wandered for days, losing equipment, losing hope. Anya listened without judgment. Everyone here carried ghosts. Caring for him was hard. It meant sharing food, burning more wood, risking more. But it also meant something else. It meant purpose beyond mere endurance. As Mikhail recovered, slowly, painfully, he began to help. He chopped wood with clumsy hands, apologized often, and listened when Anya spoke about the land. They cooked together, there. Movements careful around the stove. He marveled at her ingenuity, the way she turned scarcity into sustenance. One evening, as the cold deepened and the fire crackled low, he asked quietly, "Why did you stay?" Anya stared into the flames. The question was simple, but the answer was not. "I didn't choose to stay at first," she said. "I was waiting to leave. Then I realized I was still alive. And as long as that was true, I had a responsibility. To myself. To this place." He nodded, understanding flickering across his face. The rescue came weeks later, drawn by Mikhail's emergency signal once he was strong enough to activate it. The helicopter's sound tore through the silence like a wound. Anya watched it descend, snow swirling violently beneath the blades. They urged her to come. To leave the taiga behind. She stood there, the cold biting her cheeks, and felt something settle inside her. She had survived alone at 71 below. She had faced grief, hunger, and fear, and found herself still standing. The taiga had not broken her. It had shaped her. "I will come," she said finally. "But not because I'm running." As the helicopter lifted them into the sky, the forest stretched endlessly below, dark and vast. Anya pressed her forehead to the cold glass and whispered a farewell, not in sorrow, but in gratitude. She was leaving, yes. But she was not the same woman who had arrived. She carried the taiga within her now. Its silence, its cruelty, its fierce, uncompromising truth. And she knew, with a certainty as sharp as the cold, that no matter where she went, she would never again be afraid of surviving.